Throughout all kinds of cinema, femme fatales have done a wonderful job of captivating audiences and have left them wanting more. The term is generally used to define a woman who's fiercely independent and in control of her life, who exudes confidence and has a seductive appeal. You'll never find these characters settling for less. Sometimes they've been portrayed in a negative light, either because of the demands of the story or just because most audiences cannot digest a gray female character. Either way, they've left their mark on cinema, and some standout characters are referenced even today when talking about femme fatales. They don't just influence the plot of the movie, they also leave a lasting impact on fashion and culture. From the iconic women in the James Bond movies to Natasha Romanoff in Marvel's Avengers franchise, these devious dames are as alluring as they are dangerous. More often than not, they're only concerned with their business, but they're fiercely loyal to their allies as well. It all depends on whether you can get on their good side. In this video, we'll be talking about some of the most standout femme fatales seen in movie and television history. But before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin.
I liked having sex with him.
Catherine Tramell, Basic Instinct, 1992. Sharon Stone's Catherine Tramell from Basic Instinct and its sequel probably takes the first place when it comes to talking about the most dangerous femme fatales in cinema. Catherine is a cold, calculative, and manipulative character who exudes charisma and manages to dominate almost every person who comes across her. She's one of the rare female sociopath characters in movies, and Stone executed the role to perfection. A novelist by profession, her real calling is serial killing. She causes numerous deaths and shows no remorse whatsoever, instead using the incidents to make her books more palatable and thrilling. There is no sugarcoating her character. She's portrayed as a true monster who loves to manipulate others for her own gain. A student of psychology, she truly understands the workings of the human mind and manages to stay 2 steps ahead of everyone. She's well aware of the effect her charisma has on people and uses her sexuality to sway things in her favor. She appears to be passionate and seductive on the outside, but she shows very little emotion throughout the movie. While the movie makes it clear that she is no saint, there's no direct evidence that links her to her crimes. This makes her extremely dangerous and also leaves that flicker of doubt in the minds of the audience. What if she really is innocent? One of the most famous scenes in the movie is when the police are interrogating her and she dons a short white dress. She crosses and uncrosses her legs repeatedly, making it clear that she's not wearing any underwear. Considering how she was being interrogated for being a murder suspect and the fact that she remained cool-headed and even managed to execute complete command over the situation, it's clear that she is no ordinary person. She's shown to seduce both men and women, and the only moment when she displays some sort of genuine remorse is when her lover Roxy ends up dead. Whether she puts up an elaborate ruse is not effectively shown, but her change in attitude even makes those around her doubt her guilt.
I never thought that could happen to me.
Sorry, baby, I'm not buying.
Phyllis Dietrichson, Double Indemnity, 1944. Phyllis Dietrichson is one of the most memorable villains that movies have ever produced. Barbara Stanwyck, who played the character, was initially too hesitant to do it because of the person she would have to portray. However, her performance remains one of the benchmarks in Hollywood's portrayal of villains, both male and female. Stanwyck has also mentioned how Phyllis was the best role she had ever played. In the movie, Phyllis manages to convince her insurance against Walter Neff to help her get rid of her husband. Before this, she plays a twisted game where she makes her husband take out a life insurance policy with a double indemnity clause, so that after his death, she can enjoy the payout. With Walter's help, she kills her husband and makes it seem like a train accident. She pretends to be in love with Walter so that he would go along with her schemes, but ultimately, she double-crosses him. Realizing that he was simply used as a pawn, Walter ultimately shoots her dead. Phyllis is not a traditional sociopath by any means, since she doesn't openly engage in any malicious acts. Rather, she makes someone do her dirty work for her, using her expert manipulative skills. She's in control of herself and very seductive, so much so that it takes Walter until the end to discover the truth. Phyllis also shows no remorse for her actions, which is a typical trait of sociopaths. The way she expertly pins the blame on Walter when he realizes his role in her schemes is very slick, because she blames him for planning everything and distances herself from the act by saying she only said she wanted her husband dead, but she did not kill him herself. The movie was inspired by a novella in which Phyllis is also suspected of killing several infants during her time as a nurse. However, the hospital she worked at could not prove she was involved, so they had to fire her instead of turning her in. Her character is based on a real-life murderer known as Ruth Snyder, who was executed in 1928.
I don't need anybody.
Didn't Langford tell you? There's no such thing as an almond in Argentina.
Rita Hayworth as Gilda. Gilda, 1946. Gilda is a must-watch classic noir movie that features a femme fatale in Rita Hayworth's titular character. The movie's become a cult classic over the years. In the movie, Johnny Farrell, played by Glenn Ford, is an American who arrives in Argentina and gets employed by a casino owner. When he realizes that the owner's new wife, Gilda, is a former lover of his, things start getting heated up. It's initially portrayed that Gilda and Johnny hate each other, and the former appears to hook up with random men in an attempt to make the latter more incensed. However, where there's hatred, there's also love, and as it turns out, the pair end up in a passionate kiss after declaring their undying hatred for each other. However, Gilda's husband happens to overhear this and leaves, but apparently dies. After Gilda inherits his estate, she marries Johnny, who continues tormenting her because she wants to punish him for having betrayed her husband, his employer. When it's revealed that the man is not truly dead, he tries killing both Gilda and Johnny, but is fatally stabbed and finally dies. In the end, Gilda and Johnny reconcile for good. Gilda's not a dangerous character by any means, like the ones we've discussed before her. She is, however, extremely charming and confident and knows how to command people to her whims. She's elegant, but at the same time has a fiery personality. The costumes in the movie, created by designer Jean-Louis, add a layer of sensuality to her character, especially during the songs. Her strapless black satin gown remains a beloved look to this day. Hayworth's magnetic screen presence made Gilda a fan-favorite movie in no time, and her character remains iconic. Selina Kyle, Catwoman, Batman Returns, 1992. Michelle Pfeiffer's portrayal of Selina Kyle and Catwoman is arguably the most impressive take on the iconic character from DC Comics. Layered with a mix of sensuality, danger, and unpredictability, Pfeiffer got the memo right for portraying one of the most well-known femme fatales in the superhero genre. Initially, she's shown to be a meek and overworked assistant to the wealthy industrialist known as Max Schreck, who tries to kill her by throwing her from a window. However, she survives the fall, apparently having been revived by alley cats. She manages to get home in a trance-like state and vows revenge on Schreck. Suffering a psychotic breakdown, she fashions her Catwoman costume out of a black raincoat. In her attempt to kill her former boss, she allies herself with Penguin. This brings her under Batman's radar. Selina starts a relationship with Bruce Wayne, but both of them are unaware of each other's alter ego. When Batman finally learns who she is, he tries to get her to give up her vendetta against Schreck, but she refuses and manages to kill him by electrocution. While this should have technically killed her as well, only Schreck's charred corpse is found. Later, she's shown looking out at the bat signal in the sky. Selina comes out of her bubble after her near-death experience and becomes a dangerous and empowered individual who seems to fear nothing anymore. While most other versions of Catwoman are not anti-heroes, Pfeiffer's rendition is, and her unhinged behavior makes her a wild card in Gotham. The portrayal was executed perfectly, as her movements had to resemble that of a cat, a mixture of playful and menacing. Selina manages to maintain a carefree demeanor, but also makes it clear that she's not to be taken lightly. For most fans, this rendition of Catwoman is the best so far, even though others like Anne Hathaway and Halle Berry have come close. While it's considered to be one of Pfeiffer's best works, she's been vocal about how uncomfortable it was playing the character, owing to the nature of the iconic costume.
You get blinded by that moon of bright gold above.
Ellen Graham, This Gun for Hire, 1942. Ellen Graham from This Gun for Hire is both a heroine as well as a noir seductress. Played by the legendary Veronica Lake, Ellen is a character who balances charm, intelligence, and bravery in a noir setting. She serves as a femme fatale as well as a moral compass throughout the film, delicately maintaining a balance between morality and manipulation. Unlike most noir heroines, Ellen doesn't sit back and play a passive role. She's an active participant in the story and a well-known nightclub singer in her own right. She's courageous and willing to take risks that could end up badly. When her boyfriend ends up in a crime, she does not act like the damsel in distress. Instead, she demonstrates sharp instincts throughout the film and never appears to be naive or weak, even when she knows she's dealing with villainous forces. She's also very compassionate and kind because she treats Alan Ladd's Philip Raven with empathy after learning about his tragic past. Unlike most femme fatale characters, she is not morally gray and maintains a clear understanding of right and wrong while maintaining charisma and allure. As a nightclub singer, some of her most iconic looks are served when she performs musical numbers, one of the most memorable of those being her classic satin dress and peekaboo hairstyle. She plays an important role in the film's climax as well and drives the emotional weight of the conclusion.
Grown-ups suffer consequences.
Amy Dunne, Gone Girl, 2014. Rosamund Pike's Amy Dunne from Gone Girl is a very popular portrayal of a femme fatale who will go to any length imaginable to get what she wants. Amy's in an unhappy marriage with her husband Nick, and when she discovers he's cheating on her with a far younger woman, she plans an elaborate scheme to make it look like Nick killed her. On their 5th wedding anniversary, Amy goes missing, and the press starts widespread coverage of the events that follow. Nick is the prime suspect. Flashbacks show glimpses of the couple's life, how they both moved to the countryside from New York, and how Nick starts an affair with one of his students. However, he doesn't know that Amy is aware of it, and she frames her master plan of getting him behind bars for her supposed murder and then drowning herself to make it all real. Her clues manage to almost convince the police that Nick did in fact abuse and kill her. However, she's revealed to be living in the Ozarks and goes to a wealthy ex-boyfriend for help to avoid getting caught. Nick hires a lawyer and makes a public interview where he pretends to be regretful. Amy watches this and feels attracted to him once again, so she kills her ex and makes it appear as if he had kidnapped her. She confesses the truth to Nick, but also manages to keep a plan B in case he outs her. She artificially inseminates herself with his sperm and gets pregnant, and now Nick has no other choice but to live with her for his child. Amy is described as a cold and snobbish person who initially does love Nick very much, but starts resenting him later. One of the standout moments of the film is the cool girl monologue, where Amy expresses her frustration with Nick and humanizes her character's otherwise ruthless actions. It serves as a reminder of female rage, which almost every woman who has been wronged by a partner can relate to. Foxy Brown. Foxy Brown, 1974. Pam Grier's blaxploitation role of Foxy Brown is a very memorable femme fatale feature. You don't normally see a lot of African-American femme fatales because the standards for these characters are usually very Eurocentric. Foxy Brown tells the story of a woman dead set on revenge after her boyfriend is killed at the doorstep by powerful drug dealers. She connects the dots and realizes that the people behind the murder are Stevie and Catherine, who run a modeling agency that caters to a high-class clientele. She decides to pose as a prostitute and infiltrates the gang. In doing so, she rescues another black woman from this life and reunites her with her family. However, she is caught and left to be used as a sex slave by Catherine. In the end, she manages to escape and have Stevie castrated. She then takes on Catherine and shoots her in the arm, but does not kill her, saying that she wants her to suffer the same way she made Foxy suffer. While the movie was heavily criticized for its stereotypical portrayal of black people and unnecessary sexual violence, Pam Grier stood strong in her vocal support for the role. This is not a traditional femme fatale movie because of the nuances of race and class. Black people were making a lot of progress during this time and didn't necessarily want to be associated with drugs, gangs, and prostitution. The objectification of black women has also been heavily criticized, but in the end, Foxy Brown was a heroine, even if she had to use different ways to exact her revenge. This movie redefined black womanhood, beauty, and sexuality, which indirectly led to the diversification of African American actresses on screen. Kathie Moffat, Out of the Past, 1947. Jane Greer's Kathie Moffat is one of the most iconic in film noir history. She embodies the classic traits of the archetype: beautiful, deceptive, manipulative, and utterly irresistible. However, what makes her particularly compelling is the way she shifts between vulnerability and ruthlessness, making it difficult for both the protagonist and the audience to fully decipher her true nature. She's seductive and enigmatic, and thoroughly knows how to make men become obsessed with her. She's an expert liar, constantly shifting allegiances to ensure her own survival. She initially claims to be an innocent woman fleeing from a dangerous man, but over time, it becomes clear she's playing her own game. She has no qualms about betraying or even killing anyone who stands in her way, and prioritizes her survival over everything else. The reason why she's such a complex character to unfold is because her mission is not made clear throughout the movie. She's not after something in particular. Instead, she wants to simply do as she pleases and manipulate others into taking the fall for her. Unlike many femme fatales who rely solely on seduction, Kathie is also intelligent and strategic. She knows how to manipulate situations to her advantage, whether it's lying about stolen money or framing Jeff for murder. One of the most memorable moments of Kathie Moffat is when she makes her first appearance in Acapulco, and Jeff becomes ensnared with her beauty. She's seen in a soft light, appearing almost angelic, which is the stoic opposite of her actual nature. She remains self-serving until the very end. Cersei Lannister, Game of Thrones, 2011 to 2019. No one's a stranger to the manipulative and power-hungry Cersei Lannister from Game of Thrones. From the very beginning of the show, Cersei is shown to be a ruthless woman who will go to any extent to get what she wants. While she's fiercely loyal to her own, she never hesitates to betray people to protect herself. Despite her belief in herself, she is not the master strategist she thinks herself to be. She's extremely short-sighted and prone to emotional outbursts, which make her a weak character in some ways. Most of her schemes work in the beginning, but end up backfiring because, while she has some tact, she doesn't possess the necessary strategic power required to complete her wishes. Lena Headey, who played her in the show, has compared Cersei with a 15-year-old girl who never really outgrew her rebellious teenage state of mind. Her father Tywin had once said that Cersei's only redeeming quality is her love for her children, and while this seems to be true at the surface level, it soon becomes clear that she does not act as a good parental figure for them, and instead only enables them. Her blatant disregard for the psychopathic tendencies of her son Joffrey is one of the reasons why she ends up losing him and her other children. Cersei is in reality a lonely figure who grew up without a mother for the most part and had to find solace in her brother's company. She aimed to be a good wife and was genuinely excited to be married to Robert Baratheon, but realized that he would always be hung up over Lyanna Stark and never truly love her. Her loneliness became explosive to the point where she believed that everyone was an enemy and went to great lengths to protect herself and the ones she deemed close enough. She knows that her beauty is a tool to gain more power, and uses her deadly charm to remain at the top. One of the defining moments for her was her walk of shame, which really cemented her role as one of the main villains in the series. Desperate to assert vengeance on those who had humiliated her, she committed one of the most shocking acts when she burned down a chunk of King's Landing with wildfire. However, her increasingly violent nature slowly left her devoid of allies, as even her closest confidant, her brother Jaime, started resenting her. In the end, she was unable to play the Game of Thrones for a very long time, and her vulnerabilities came to the forefront. She dies along with Jaime as the last person to ever sit on the Iron Throne. Kitty Collins, The Killers, 1946. One of the classic noir's most alluring and dangerous femme fatales, Ava Gardner's Kitty Collins is the catalyst for much of the film's tragedy, embodying the deceptive, manipulative, and fatalistic qualities that define the archetype. While she initially appears as a glamorous and unattainable woman, it soon becomes clear that she is at the heart of a web of lies, betrayal, and murder. She uses men as pawns to get what she wants, particularly the Swede, whom she persuades to take the fall for a robbery. Even when she appears affectionate, there's always an ulterior motive behind her actions. Unlike some noir femme fatales who show traces of remorse, Kitty is ruthless in her self-interest. She double-crosses anyone who becomes inconvenient, including the Swede and her criminal associates. One of the most memorable scenes in the film happens when Kitty appears in a satin gown and immediately grabs the attention of the Swede. She stands as one of film noir's quintessential femme fatales, a woman who uses beauty, charm, and lies to destroy those around her. Ava Gardner's performance elevates Kitty beyond a simple villain, making her a figure of both desire and doom. Lorraine Broughton, Atomic Blonde, 2017. Charlize Theron stars as Lorraine Broughton in Atomic Blonde, who is initially revealed to be a high-level MI6 agent, but is later understood to actually be working for the CIA as a triple agent. She also pretends to work for the KGB. Her mission in the film was to retrieve a microchip that had the details of many officers as well as their shady deals. She embodies the modern action heroine while maintaining the mystique and complexity of a classic noir protagonist. She's trained in combat, deception, and survival. Her brutal efficiency in hand-to-hand combat sets her apart from traditional femme fatales, making her more of a warrior than a seductress. The film plays with the idea that Lorraine is constantly working for multiple sides, keeping her true motivations hidden until the very end. The final twist reveals that Lorraine has been playing everyone: MI6, the CIA, and the KGB, which proves her as not just a great fighter, but a brilliant strategist. Theron's Lorraine stands out as a modern, hyper-stylized femme fatale, blending the espionage intrigue of James Bond with the realism of John Wick. Her performance cements her as a new breed of action heroine, who is cool, complex, and utterly relentless. Suzanne Stone Maretto, To Die For, 1995. Nicole Kidman's Suzanne Stone Maretto is the main villain in To Die For, and she literally goes to extremes to achieve her ultimate ambition of being a television megastar. She is beautiful and charismatic and uses her allure to seduce high school boys, including Larry Maretto, who is wealthy and well-connected. They get married, but Larry wants to have a family with Suzanne, but she has nothing else in mind than being a world-renowned news anchor, a position she hopes to achieve using Larry's fortune. She manages to seduce Jimmy, another high school student, and uses him and another student named Russell to kill Larry. While she's initially suspected of ordering the hit on her husband, there's very little concrete evidence that supports this, and thus she remains unpunished while Jimmy and Russell go to jail. Later, in a press conference, she badmouths Larry and then meets with a studio executive who's actually a hitman for the mafia hired by Larry's father. She is killed, and her body is dumped in a frozen lake, and Larry's sister Janice is seen ice skating on the lake. Nicole Kidman plays the part of a desperate wannabe media megastar very well, and the brutality of Suzanne's ambition is portrayed hauntingly. While there is poetic justice in the end, Suzanne remains an important femme fatale figure who would do anything to move ahead in her path to stardom. Marvelous verdict. While there are a lot of other names when it comes to femme fatales, Angelina Jolie in Mr. and Mrs. Smith is an honorable mention, there are always a few that stand above the rest for the layers they have to their personality. Their utter ruthless methods and ambitious streak make them a force to be reckoned with, but sometimes they do get their dues. Heroines are often viewed as morally clean and serve to just play the role of a pretty face. But these femme fatale characters have been breaking stereotypes to challenge the norm and present a more nuanced take on women who do not fit the mold of regular heroines. Let us know what other films left lasting impressions on you with their portrayals of femme fatales. We hope to see you soon with our next video. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks, everyone.